I've seen a lot of Jeffrey Jones this year. It's kind of troubling.
Yeah. Was he in this movie?
No. Yeah, I was out. One winter, and I saw this ramshackle cabin, and Jeffrey Jones showed up and blew some mist on one of my friends. No, 2 weeks ago, we watched Beetlejuice, and then this weekend we watched Sleepy Hollow. So the double dose of Tim Burton. But yeah, Jeffrey Jones is in that movie, and this is like kind of that transitionary Jeffrey Jones where he's kind of becoming like a fat guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of like classic old guys in that movie too. It was really weird because Michael Gambon was in it.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure we watched it on like the anniversary of his death.
Oh.
Which also coincided with Maggie Smith's death. They died on the exact same day, one calendar year apart from each other. So very
who's
weird.
It going to be next year?
Very weird coincidences. And then, dude, we're going to go see Blade in a couple of weeks. Chris Christopherson just died.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. I don't want to watch anything else. It's a good thing we're watching, like, old Japanese movies from the 60s where, like, I know they're all dead. There's no way.
Don't, Nick. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Don't say that. Somebody I was going to bring up is still alive in this movie.
Oh, shit. Uh-oh. I guess
let's go to Wikipedia and change it to was real quick.
No. Oh, no. I guess that's still pretty plausible for them to be alive. I'm thinking for some reason I'm thinking of like those like Kurosawa movies from the 50s where everyone was born in like 1910 or 1919 and it's like there's no way those guys are still alive, but I guess it is pretty reasonable for some of shit.
Yeah, fuck. Now I'm scared. Okay, let's do it. Let's do a different movie.
Yeah.
Well, just maybe throw in some like Kevin Spacey movies.
Yeah.
There you go. Strategic, like
use your powers for good.
I'm watching Seven and manifesting him getting his head blown away by Brad Pitt in real life.
Yeah. Welcome back, ladies and gents, once again to There Will Be Duds. This is episode 161, and I am your co-host TJ, and with me as always,
I am Nick, and once again we are joined by our horror correspondent, Chris. Thank you for making the trek back to podcast studios.
Mm-hmm. Just here for Halloween hangouts all month long.
Halloween hangs.
And this week's hang is about a movie from 1965, directed by Masaki Kobayashi. Kwaidan is an anthology movie of ghost stories. Kwaidan is some sort of like it's a weird translation of, but it like kind of means ghost stories or whatever. It's four separate stories, as anthologies are. All set in like feudal-ish Japan era, different times. And there's ghosts in all of them. The four stories are the black hair, the woman in the snow, Hoichi the earless, and in a cup of tea. I don't know. That's it for the overall. Otherwise, I'd have to like, and this is what this one's about, and this is what this one's about.
Right. Do we want to kind of go in order of appearance? Like we start with the black hair and then move forward, or do we want to like?
I don't know.
Or all encompassing? Because I feel like we're probably gonna bounce around.
We'll probably bounce around. Yeah. Unless is there any that we could maybe let's start with chronologically, but then if we start jumping, then we'll just roll with it.
Sure.
So yeah, in order, the first one is the black hair. And well, I guess no. I like. Well, what'd you get? What was the overall? Do we want to get into like an overall thing and then go break it down into its parts, or
sure? I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like this I picked this one because like I said, like I saw the trailer and I was like, yeah, that's my vibe. So I was already kind of like had a feeling that I was gonna be into it.
Were you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was great. I will say it dipped with, so it was kind of like a Beau is Afraid thing, where it's like it's split into these like separate chapters, and I was like,
Yeah.
first two chapters I loved the black hair, and then the woman in the snow was my favorite one. So those two were great, like near maybe like perfect for me. Like I loved those. And then Hoichi the Earless was the one that kind of brought it down for me. And it's not like I disliked it. I still enjoyed it, but
was Hoichi the longest one? I feel like it was the longest one.
That was like a whole movie by itself.
It basically was. It was like an hour 15 or something. And I like, of course it has to be the longest one, right? Like, of course, like I was thinking in my head, I'm like, well, if they're all like around 40 minutes, then they'd be about the same length, and that would roughly get you to 40 minutes and some change. But then that one comes along, and then the last one's like 25 minutes or whatever. So it's a little strange. I didn't dislike it. It just was not I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as those first two.
I think this movie and like these anthology shorts demand patience, and I think if you go into them like expecting them to be like conventional horror movies with like boo scary visuals, like that kind of stuff, you're probably gonna be like somewhat disappointed. Like they're not conventional like horror shorts at all. They're much more like slow burning, like just atmospheric. I really liked the way that they did sound. They did sound very intentionally, where like it would be a scene. I think it's in Hoichi, but there's like a monsoon going on outside. It is raining, and like you don't hear any rain sounds whatsoever. And even in the first two, like the black hair, it's very, it adds to the overall like unsettling vibe. I was thinking of, God, what I can never remember, After Last Season.
Oh,
because after last season, there were moments in that movie where you like whatever weird audio filter he had built into that movie, whenever something would like cross the threshold of like cutting that sound out, you would hear like these sort of like creaks and groans and like sounds. And I'm like, oh, this movie is like that, but like if you did it with intent, whereas like after last season, it was just like random and like totally just a mistake. But that element was like very, very effective and unnerving.
I will say those first two are really close in my head as far as like enjoyment, but I will say that first one had my favorite like sound design and score. I loved how, like, I don't even know if you could call it music, but it was like a backing score, but it was mostly just like you said, like creaks or like smacks or like hits or whatever.
The Foley guy had a hell of a time with this movie.
Yeah. But yeah, I adored like from like a crafting standpoint, and that's why like I still say like I enjoyed Hoichi the Earless, where like I feel like the story maybe could have been condensed. I feel like maybe you could have gotten it closer to the length of the other ones. But I still
hear that song so many times.
Yeah. It's cool. No, it's cool. But
yeah.
But yeah, even if I wasn't like as wrapped up in the story, the visuals and the sound, like the the technical aspects of it the whole way through was just like I adored it.
I think that goes into even just how they shot the scenes, because obviously shot in the 60s, there's no even concept of CGI, but like trying to like fade stuff in and out for a ghost story, or some stuff like in Huichi the Earless, where it's like, oh, these are supposed to be will-o-the-wisps, and it's just like probably like a flaming tennis ball.
Yeah, the little yeah.
I thought that was awesome. I love that.
Like, I still love that, but it's like one of those things, like if you step back, it's like, oh, it's really obvious what it is, but at the time it's like, oh my god, how are they doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think they also kind of played into that like stage play style, because like all of the sets were obviously like on sound stages, but because they were on sound stages, they could do wild shit with the backdrops, and I think that was maybe my favorite element out of all of them. I think the woman in the snow, the woman of the snow,
with the eyes,
the eyeballs in the sky, and like the way that like there's one shot in particular where it's like it's after the initial, like, he meets the woman of the snow and like she spares him, and then he's like walking with Yuki, and like the trees are perfectly parted and the eye is like right in the center, like looking down at them almost. Very like just phantasmic, like otherworldly, just like impossible colors in the sky. But it's like the reds and the blues and all of that was gorgeous. I loved it.
Yeah, I think Woman in the Snow is probably my favorite, but one part that did get an unintentional laugh is when she's walking away. It's like, I think it might be meant to make her look like she's hovering, but you can just see her take really, really small steps very quickly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's I noticed that, like, and I think that's just not just in this movie, but I think that's just kind of how
I think it's more due to like the nature of the dress and like how.
Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna say, like, I think just like women, like that's how they walk, because they're supposed to be like dainty and like and I think maybe it was supposed to be like ghostly, but then like you see the guys walk around and they're like even when they're just kind of like walking, they're just they're like very lumbering like steps is how they walk, and all the women are very like light on their feet.
It makes me think of the scene in Kill Bill Volume 1 when Lucy Liu, like the one guy in the boardroom scene, like says something, and she like gets up and like and then cuts his head off. Like the way the swiftness in which she moves, like that's kind of what it made me think of.
Now, if any of you sons of bitches got anything else to say,
yeah,
now's the fucking time.
Yeah.
I do think too that, like you said, that it's not scary in like a more modern or like American sense, but I did find like it was really fun watching the first one, the black hair, and being like, okay, I like I said, like enjoying the aesthetic and everything, and I'm like, and you're getting like, oh, he left his wife because they were like poor, and also I'm like, that's a poor house, that fucking like,
dude,
like how many fucking
like estate
like
to yourself.
What was their square footage on that thing? And they're like living in poverty. Eat my ass.
He's like, I can't stand living in this, and it's like a manor.
Yeah. So again, like into the whole vibe, but I was like, okay, but where's the spookiness? I assumed that like it was something like the wife was gonna haunt him because she left him, or the new wife was going to, I don't know. I kind of assumed it was gonna be something like that. But then when he goes back and she's like young still, and I was like, that was where the movie got me. I was like, I am going to be so into this. And like that whole sequence with them like talking about like their, like memories together, and like what, like looking towards the future, and she like mentions like, we only have a moment, and he's like, huh? And then they just like move past it. But then every time this movie does, it's very like Junji Ito feeling, where you get like a few seconds on the character's face as they like look in horror, and then it's a really slow tilt to like reveal what it is. And it's usually nothing like it was just like a skeleton, you know. It's just a skeleton on a bed. It's not like a terrifying image, but it's done in such a like cool way that makes it like my hairs were like standing on him. Like every time you're like, what is he looking at? What's he looking at? What's he looking at?
Well, see, so the first story, the black hair, I feel like I've heard this story before, because it definitely had like a fable quality to
For
it.
sure.
Like a parable type thing, where I was like, oh, he's going to leave, and then he's going to realize that like he wanted to be with her, so he comes back home. And like for whatever reason, I was like, I knew what was gonna happen, and sure enough, he goes home and he sees her alive and well, and I'm like, okay, yeah, he's like projecting all of this, or like he's hallucinating. When he said, oh, I remember when we first made love in this room, I was like, uh-oh, she's dead, don't do it, uh-oh. But one thing that I did note that I kind of got a chuckle, I made myself laugh a little bit, was when he initially comes back to the house, and as he's exploring, right as he gets to like that long corridor to like where his wife is, I was watching it and I was like, this is the longest hallway in my house.
Oh, you're right. I meant to mention that, yeah. Especially when starts crumbling and...
Yeah, and then I think even in one of those loops in that video, don't you see like black hair hanging from like the ceiling at one point?
You do. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I thought that more so, and I mean these are based on, so it's based on a collection by an American actually, who like moved to Japan. But it's based on books by, his name's Lafcadio Hearn. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Or maybe I think he was born in Greece, but he might have grown up in America or something. So I thought that was interesting. I just kind of assumed it was like all, and it was like retellings of like old Japanese like folklore, but yeah, especially the first two felt very like especially the woman in the snow. I was like, I swear that there is a Greek mythology like counterpart to this, and I'm like, that would make sense if that guy wrote it and he comes from the Western world. If he's like kind of doing Japanese folklore by way of like Greek or like Western folklore, maybe.
Right.
Because that one is like even more so than the black hair. I was like, well, I know exactly where this is going. Like the whole someone spared, and then like the higher being says like, don't do anything or I'm gonna kill you. And inevitably, what happens in all these Greek mythologies, like they do the one thing that they were told not to do. And so I was just like, yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. But I think why that one ended up being my favorite was because how the ending like did that, and yet still subverted my expectations there, because I was like, pretty soon I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure this girl is the snow lady, and then she says her name is Yuki, which if you guys don't know her, is snow. That means snow.
Oh, didn't know that.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, yeah, she's the lady. She's the snow lady. That demon is literally called a Yuki Onna. So, I mean, the guy should have keyed to it really himself, but, and then he starts telling her, and I was like, oh, he's going to die and that's going to be the end of it. But then she doesn't kill him because she loves him and their children. And I was, it almost like made me cry. I thought that was so beautifully done. I thought that was so cool. And then she leaves and he puts the slippers out for her. It was just such a like touching ending to what I thought the whole time was just going to be
Him
you
getting
know,
got.
yeah, basically, yeah. So I loved that the ending of that one.
Yeah, I mean, the first two really surprised me in that way. It's like whoever they wronged isn't out for vengeance. Like the black hair, I thought, like when the guy was returning to his manor, it's like, oh, at night she's going to kill him or something. It's like, oh no, she really did want just one moment with him, and the horror comes after that. And then in this story, you think as he's telling her the story, it's like, oh yeah, okay, now this guy is going to get killed, and maybe his kids too. And then the what was it called? The Yukiano?
Yeah, Yukiana. Yeah.
Yukiana like decides to spare him because she loves him and the kids, but she's like, don't be mean to them or I will be back.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I all of the endings for these are sort of. I mean, I guess the black hair is I guess that's your most straightforward, like, guy wrongs woman, and then like, yeah, like it's not necessarily her getting revenge, but that one is definitely the one that has like the worst outcome for like the protagonist that we're following the whole time, where he wakes up and he gets attacked by the black hair.
Maybe.
Well, that's the thing is like it progresses from bad thing to like kind of okay thing to like Hoichi, where it's like he gets maimed, but then it's like he becomes world famous and everyone loves him.
Yeah.
And then literally the last one, it's like, I don't know, you decide. How do you think it ends?
Yeah.
Also, here's a guy in the soup.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was one image that did like when the guys I'm like okay, he's in the pot, right? Again like this. I feel like the movie, it's so slow paced that you know everything that is coming. And yet when the camera like shows him in there, I went, Jesus fucking Christ. Like I said that out loud because it was that one like genuinely like freaked me out the way he's like
Venice. Yeah.
Doing that.
Although I will say the guy in the cup of tea seemed like he was having fun fucking with like the real guy.
Oh, the like in the story in this I meant I meant the author.
Yeah. I know, but when that story starts, just like him with this shit-eating grin, it's like, oh, can't drink this one either.
And he's doing like the side eye, like
yeah.
I said out loud, I was like, yeah, dude, it's the cup that's the problem. Because like he switches out for another cup, and then he looks and he's like, god damn it, he's still in there.
I love it. In the spirit, like after he shows up again just to fuck with the guy, he sends like 3 of his servants or retainers to be like, oh, he's coming back on this day to fight you.
Yeah.
And then what I thought was going to happen was when the guy was swinging around trying to chase them, it shows him like actually connecting, and it seems like he's killing them. I thought he was just going to like switch to him like killing people who had nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Yes. I thought that too. Yeah.
Especially the way that he's like kind of laughing maniacally, like sort of as he realizes what he's been doing at the end. I was like, oh, everyone in that house is going to be like slashed and dead.
Yeah.
But then it just ends there, and then the author, he's like, well, the author disappeared, and he never finished, or he said, he's like, I could think of a bunch of different endings. Which one do you think is the most interesting one? Which was that supposed to be the guy that was like narrating the entire time? Because the publisher, the publisher's voice sounded like the narration that kind of weaves in and out of all of these, just like kind of giving you a little bit of exposition or like backstory. It was almost like a Rod Serling from the Twilight Zone type guy that was just like, imagine, if you will, a man drinking tea, and one day he sees another man's face in his tea, like that kind of stuff.
Well, what would have been cool is like if when he finally drinks the tea, you hear the guy like moan. That's the outcome.
You can hear him like going down his throat, like
yeah. It just becomes that one Futurama episode where Fry drinks the king.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of that, the use of like the use of makeup in this, I liked a lot too. That like you could see like like the ending of the black hair, how like every shot that it cuts back to the husband, he's like more white, and then he starts like aging rapidly and stuff, and like that like added to like the freaky factor of that. And then they just gonna say real quick, they do the same thing with Hoichi. It's a lot slower, but like every time he goes and plays for the ghost, he's like a little more pale.
Yeah, the way that they do that with like kind of all the characters, it's just like, ooh, they're ghostly white, like, ooh, but it is genuinely like an unnerving effect, especially with like the lack of eyebrows. Like the woman in the snow, when she shows up, like her eyebrows are completely like painted over, and she has like the two little sort of like pseudo eyebrows, like on her forehead or whatever. But it's just that I think it's just like instant uncanny valley is what that gives you, and that's what makes it so unnerving.
That's just a traditional. I think it's no theater like makeup. Like that's how they do that, because you'll see there's some like other like historical Japanese movies. Like I know Kurosawa's Throne of Blood. They do the same thing. Like the wife in that has that kind of like makeup and stuff. And then like the samurai guys in the Hoichi one with like the really extreme like facial like the hair and like the eyebrows and that stuff. Made them look like demons.
They're almost like they're huge bald heads.
Yeah.
Where it's just like their head is almost like completely oval shaped. And then like the maybe you know more about this, but I noticed it when I watched either Yojimbo or Sanjuro, but the black teeth.
I meant to look that up. I don't know if is that just like because like Sugar would do that back, because like a lot of like royals I know back in the day had like black teeth because of that.
I think it was like a part of, it was like a class thing. Like if you're like of a certain class of person, like right, that was like a decorative thing, kind of like, you know, the ornate makeup maybe. But I noticed in when I was watching Sanjuro like last month, a few of the characters had like that black teeth, and then I noticed that again when he's like talking to I think it's in the first one, yeah, because he leaves his like poor wife in Kyoto and goes to marry this rich lady. And I'm pretty sure when they're talking, her teeth are like completely black.
Yeah. No, you're right. It is. Yeah, I think it's the rich wife has a Yeah, I think that's tied to it, I believe, because I think it's like I want to say Sugar is like things that it was like a luxury back then. So it's like you prove that you're rich by letting your teeth rot from this thing that the pores can't get.
Yeah.
In a similar vein, wasn't gout called like the disease of kings back in the day?
That sounds familiar.
It's just like you just sit on your ass too much and it just causes issues for you. Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think like being fat back then was considered like upper class because you actually had access to food that other people didn't. It's like if you were like big, that was like, oh yeah, no, this guy's rich because he can eat to the point where he gets big.
Yeah.
From Wikipedia, it says teeth blackening is usually done during puberty. It was seen as a sign of maturity, beauty, and civilization. A common belief is that blackened teeth differentiated humans from animals.
Oh.
Teeth blackening is often done in conjunction with traditions of tooth sharpening, dental evulsion.
Does not sound good.
As well as other body modification customs like tattoos. Yeah, I don't know how they did it, but yeah, I can't imagine.
Mentioned at the beginning, the one who's still alive it's the main guy in the Woman of the Snow. His name's Minokichi in the thing. But that's you mentioned Sanjuro. That's Tatsuya Nakadai, who's in Sanjuro, Yojimbo, High and Low. He's in some of Kurosawa's later stuff like Kagemusha and Ran. He's also in another one of this director's, which is another one that is like really high on a lot of lists. Harakiri.
Mm.
And he's still kicking. He's 91. So
Damn.
yeah.
Yeah, I did notice Takashi Shimura in this as well. I was like,
you would, yeah.
As soon as I see his like slightly pouting face, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. That guy gets around.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
So one thing I want to talk about is the beginning to Hoichi the Earless, because like you were talking about earlier,
Okay.
how like the stuff they can do with sound stages and like kind of a traditional play.
Yeah.
It's like that's really what that opening like battle felt like between them. It's like him narrating a play version of it, and I thought that was like a really nice touch with how like exaggerated they were when they were fighting one-on-one. But then then it looks like they like those are like stage fighting things.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way that they're like, yeah, they're fighting like very stage fighty, but then their arrows like I feel like the arrows are like really flying. Like one dude gets one like in the neck, or no, maybe it's like in the face.
It's in the face. Like every arrow is like that scene in Oz where they swap out the fake knife for the real one.
And then I like that, like when they're there when he's playing for them later, there's all the guys that still have all the arrows like embedded in them and stuff.
That was really cool watching, like as he's singing the song, watching like basically the stage actors progress through the battle. Like it'll show them just kind of standing there in like their gear, like they're all very colorful, and then it'll show them and they're like, yeah, they have arrows and they're all kind of ghostly white, and then it'll like even like the little fires of them just all like kind of sprawled out on the ground. Like the staging of that was really neat.
Yeah
that whole area was cool. Yeah, and I don't know, I like yes, I really liked the ending for all of these were all like pretty strong. Like I really liked how Hoichi the Earless wrapped up. Like and that's like probably, at least for me, that's what I always would like picture before I'd seen this movie, the imagery of him covered like head to toe in the, what is it, the heart kanji? Or not, I don't think they call it kanji, the heart sutra.
Yeah.
And also I was like, well, he ain't got no eyes. Why is he called Hoichi the Earless? And it's like, oh, you dumb bastards. Like, so does that mean those guys like did his ass and his dick, and like that's what I was thinking the whole time too. Of like, what if the samurai was like, where is he? There's his ears and his balls. I gotta take what I can.
Yeah, when that kind of similar when that started, I was like, is this title translated wrong? Because he's blind, but he can definitely hear.
Oh, that'd be funny. And nobody's ever thought of like, maybe.
See, I thought this was going to be, again, another like morality play where he was going to have his ears taken from him. So then he was going to be deaf and blind. Like, and I thought that was going to be his punishment for, I guess, being naive. I don't know. It's not like he really like he seemed pretty earnest. Like he didn't seem to have any like bad intentions.
Yeah,
so
no,
like,
I don't think so.
Seeing him get punished, I guess in that way doesn't really make sense. But I was like, oh shit, he's gonna. As soon as like they covered his body with those, and he was sitting there, I was like, they missed the ears. He's like that dawning realization of like they're going to rip his. I thought like he was gonna like cut his ears off.
Yeah, that's
what
I
thought so too.
I was like, holy shit.
I thought so too, but I think the idea is that to the ghost there, he just sees a pair of floating ears. So he's like, how do I get these? He probably doesn't think they're attached to a body. He's just like, I just gotta kind of wrench them free of whatever, whatever's holding him back or whatever. Yeah, that's another like cool play with the sound too there.
I do love that. It's like, these are definitely Hoichi's ears. No idea what the rest of them is, but I gotta take these.
Yeah. They're so easily. That's the thing that's fun with like folklore is like there's no, as long as you follow the ghost rules, it's like, well, we do this, and there's no thought of like, well, wouldn't he put together like that he's there or something? It's like, no, because you followed the rule. You know, you did the thing. Just don't be quiet, or just don't make any noise, and you'll be good.
Didn't they also tell him to not even make a face? Because he was definitely doing that when the guy was yanking on his ears.
Yeah, did they say that? I know they said like not to like stir, but
that could be. I thought they told him like not move at all, like not even a face.
maybe there's some a little bit of I don't know what the lore, like
The rules,
how that would work there. Like
yeah.
if he breaks once, is it like he can see all of him and he's completely there? Is it like he like fades in for a little bit and then I don't know.
Just the ghost for one split second just hears and sees him being like, "Ow, damn it!" and then back to just ears.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was thinking, I don't know. I do like that Hoichi starts with that battle, which that alone, I feel like that's like 15 minutes long or something. It's pretty bulky, like just the battle before you get to the, Hoichi.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that could have been like something to like cut down on time, is like maybe instead of opening with that, you open with the story, whatever, like after that. But then when he goes and plays for the ghosts, you like get that then. And I wonder if that would have like helped with the pacing a bit, because it's like you get that really cool opening with all that, the fight and stuff and the song and everything. And then I feel like it's one of those where it's just kind of like the same kind of scenes on repeat a few times, and then they go and see him performing, and then you get like the ending. And I feel like maybe like breaking it up with like putting that in the middle there would have maybe kind of helped make it feel not quite as monotonous. And I don't know, I guess I'm just speaking for myself, I don't know, but it kind of sounds like you got like maybe that was like not your guys' favorite either.
No, presentation wise, I did like that one the best. My favorite story was Woman in the Snow, especially because of the background visuals. But with how Hoichi was set up, I did like that the best. Yeah, it was long, but I enjoyed it. It's easy my number 2 for this.
Okay.
Yeah, I get. Like I said up top, it demands patience, and if you're you're just kind of like, all right, we've been listening to this song for like 10 minutes, like let's move on. I definitely kind of felt that way a little bit as well, and I think there's a way to do it, because you could have done it whenever Hoichi gets taken by the spirit and he goes to perform, because the way that it goes, I guess maybe that's to create some sort of suspense where you're like, where is he going? What's he doing? Why is he? But it's like you kind of already know that it's like probably one of the samurai from that story. But it's like you could have kind of maybe piecemeal gave you that song in little bits, like every time the samurai shows up and takes Hoichi to like the place to play the song. But then again, I guess, you probably want that reveal of like the area where he's performing, because it is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's like a sort of like smoky, like almost like reflecting pond type deal. And, everyone's kind of seated around him. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just bad timing, where like I was watching it late at night on my computer screen, and I'm just like, the song does kind of drone on a little bit. But again, it's just like, it's a musical style that I'm unfamiliar with. It's not like, again, I watch these movies and I'm just like, damn, I wish like there was any sense of like folklore or culture in America. I mean, I'm sure there is, but it's like, what, Johnny Appleseed or some shit? Like,
I guess. Yeah.
Paul Bunyan.
Yeah.
What if a guy was big is the best we could do.
Oh, good.
This one, I usually try to take a lot of notes when I was watching a movie, but because of the length of this one and the fact that it was in Japanese, I didn't take any notes. I just sat and kind of watched it in its entirety without like pausing. I don't know, it's like, on the one hand, I wish I'd wrote down more, but on the other hand, I kind of like the viewing experience of like watching it to watch it, not watch it to like, pause it so I can write down what happened in this scene, and then rewind because I missed what they said there, and this, that, and the other.
Yeah, I kind of in same thing. I took a couple, but yeah, for like its length, not as much as I would normally, I guess. Yeah, I did like that because like I said, as soon as that first one hooked me, I was just like glued to it. Yeah, I guess going back to the thing with Hoichi, like I do to counterpoint my previous thing about like moving it to the middle. I do kind of like that it's at the beginning too, because then you kind of get to sit with that for a little bit, so that when you do, not only is that reveal of like the core of them when he's playing to them cool like visually, but then like you get the close-ups of them. And I think having so much time since seeing the battle and then seeing them like watching him, it really, I don't know, but I just it made me think. I don't know how to put it really, but I was like just trying to my head was just like reeling with like all like how these people must like be feeling, or how the ghost must be feeling like listening to this, like they're almost cursed to like relive their, you know, their past trauma or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that was interesting. It's like they're having him perform like their demise, and like maybe they want to hear it to hear how they're remembered, or maybe they like that they at least went down with honor and like didn't get captured.
I almost wondered if it was gonna have them be like, actually this is what happened and not that, because I was kind of thinking of how stuff that's happened hundreds of years ago, like I mean more recently there's more and more historical like text and evidence, but like a lot of stuff that happened that long ago for us, it's like we can speculate based on some written stuff and other things, but for the most part a lot of like ancient history is like it's a lot of like guesswork. So I thought it would have been kind of fun.
Unreliable narrators and word of mouth. Like a guy told me that this happened, and now I'm telling you that it happened.
It's just the ghosts. Nah, we won. Nah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got an arrow to the face. No, I didn't.
With as he's like, because I still have him like in their faces. Yeah. Because that story and that battle is a real historical event too, and that's like a real. The song that he's singing is like a real kind of like epic poem or whatever that's, like repeated traditionally. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure the Odyssey, the Iliad, like, I mean the Odyssey is definitely not real, but there may have been like a Trojan War or whatever, but it's not like that. And I don't even think that the Iliad like is trying to like present itself as like real history anyways, but I'm just kind of saying that like how things get twisted and mythologized over the years. I thought that would have been a kind of interesting twist if they had like refuted it and been like, actually history is kind of dumb, or like historians are kind of wrong sometimes.
Actually it was a random ass storm, got us all.
Yeah. Wasn't there at one point, because they were almost like asking him for requests. They're like, oh, what do you know? And he said, he's like, oh, well, there's like 5 like secret songs, or like a few like the ones that like I don't know. I feel like he was like almost taking requests, and I thought at one point they were like, well, do this part. This is like our favorite part, and like that's when I think it's when he was like singing about the climax of the battle or something. But like the idea of the ghosts being like, ooh, no, do this one. This is like the best part of the song. I love this part. Like, I don't know. I like that idea. And like the way that they made the ghosts look like very accurate to the painting style was also really cool. Cause like that heavily stylized, what's that art style called? Because we saw some of those in Chicago at the museum. There was like that one section.
Well, that's ukiyo-e. That just means like that's like woodblock print.
Okay.
I don't know if that's like that makeup look and stuff, like kabuki maybe. I'm not sure, but yeah, what we saw in Chicago is the Kyoe woodblock prints.
Okay. But like but it was crazy how like the style, like you'd see the artwork. Yeah, that shit. You know, guys pulling out their swords with just huge eyebrows. But it was cool how they made that look exactly like how they looked in those paintings.
Yeah. And oh my God, was it that one or was it? I think it was that one. Like it might have been that guy and some of the other ones where like their eyes are like beet red. Like their faces are really white. And was it that one? Was it Hoichi with like the samurai guys?
I'm pretty sure it was like as he progressed telling the story, like you're talking about like them accruing the damage they took, their eyes took on like more otherworldly appearances.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah, but it's like literally like their pupils, like they like squirted lemon juice in their eyes or something like that. They are like red, not their pupil, you know, the eyeballs are
iris.
Like red. Yeah, the iris and all that. Cornea, lens,
retina,
cones.
Well, I think that's also like a byproduct of the white makeup is that like when it makes everything else
it's lead
white
so
on
it's
your
like
when it makes your face completely.
Yeah, that snow is just all asbestos.
I did have that thought. I was like, oh, this is like Wizard of Oz, and they're all just breathing in. Like, I was like, uh-oh.
That's why only one of them's alive now.
Yeah.
That like the white makeup really like draws attention to anything else that's not that like lily white paint. So like when you see like their bloodshot eyes, their eyes look really bloodshot in comparison to everything else.
Yeah, that's true. It does, accentuate it or whatever. Yeah, for sure. So what are the you guys' like breakdowns for like, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, like favorite to least favorite or whatever?
I can give mine real quick because I don't have to think about it. One, Woman in the Snow. I love the idea of it and how you expect it to be like her just killing him, and at the end she, even though she's like a demon, has this humanity of, oh, I do care about him and I do care about the life we built in our kids. And then like you guys were talking about the background visuals with just the eyes and like the otherworldly like ethereal aspect of them. And then Hoichi the Earless is my number 2. Yeah, it's long. It could have been cut down. But I loved just the design of it, like how they made things look, how they made things sounds, the transition of the spirits. Number 3, I am going to give to the black hair. I still liked it. I just don't have anything special to say about it. And I think In a Cup of Tea was the weakest one because the author kind of like, oh, I don't know. You tell me how it turned out. I can think of a bunch of ways. But I do love like the ghost being like just smarmy with the side eye. Like, now I'm in this one.
Yeah.
There were a few moments of humor in some of these. And that was one of them is like, was the author lazy? Did he just, like kind of taking shots? And then even in Hoichi the Earless, the two guys that go to look for him, there were like a few lines that were pretty funny where like once they see that Hoichi's ears have been cut off, they're like, do spirits like ears? Or like they just
and then just like tapping his.
Yeah, they just have oh, that's so great. Yeah, because like the one guy just kind of very slowly goes up and then like flicks his ear and he's like,
yeah.
Yeah, underrated. There are a few like funny moments in some of these. A little bit of like a little bit of humor.
Yeah.
In terms of my ranking, I do think The Woman of the Snow was probably number 1. Mostly because I just loved the look of it and the sets and the set design and like those skies, just like the way that they used color in that. Because the part when he's like relaying the story and you're like, oh shit, she's the Snow Woman and he's breaking his promise. As soon as he gets done telling that story, they must have done something with like the lights where it shifts from
there's some really cool, I forgot, they do a lot of cool lighting.
It's like, your normal earth tones to just like it just shifts to blue, and I feel like there's like a blue spotlight on her. And then when she's done, when she leaves, it shifts back to, so they do a lot of really cool like lighting stuff with that one. I think the technical aspect of The Woman of the Snow is like also like the best of the four, if you will. But that's probably my number one. And then I want to say the black hair is probably number two. I think I like the parable aspect. I like the story of it. Something about like dilapidated like Japanese houses is like terrifying to me. Like it made me think of that YouTube short that we watched last year.
Oh yeah.
But it also God, what isn't Fatal Frame? Have you ever played that game?
Oh yeah, my mom loved that game.
I've heard of it.
It's like you're like a photographer, like
yeah,
because that's how you
like,
can like
go.
see the spirits is like when you're like, take pictures of them.
I think I've like downloaded it as a ROM and I played like the first level, but it's like you're in like a dilapidated, like broken down,
I think
like
an old school
like
or like an asylum,
something like that.
Okay,
but just like the overrun weeds of like those old Japanese houses, it's like it is like immediately what I think of when I think of like horror like that. And then number three, kind of a toss up. It might be Hoichi might be number three. Yeah, it was the longest one, and I definitely had like a little bit of movie watching fatigue as it was happening. But once the story picked up and like you kind of figure out what's going on with Hoichi and him like performing for these ghosts, and then like I was pretty much hooked into it. And again, I like the irony of the story, and but then it was like kind of hopeful at the end where he had a positive outcome. And then In a Cup of Tea is last only because it was like so short. I think again, because the author kind of gets a little cheeky with you and is like, oh, who knows how it could have gone. But again, like that early part with him like looking at the guy in the tea and the guy like getting closer and smiling and being all creepy, I feel like there's a lot of potential for what could have happened afterwards. Like, does the guy come back? Does he kill everyone on the compound mistakenly thinking that he's fighting off these spirits? You don't really know, and then it just kind of abruptly ends and you don't really get any satisfying answers. So it's like, it's fourth, not because it's like bad, but just because I wanted more. So.
Yeah. I already said Woman in the Snow is my favorite for like always said. Again, technical, visually, I thought all like everything in this was great. All four of the shorts looked and sounded great. But yeah, that did kind of have the wildest, most like trippy stuff. And then again, like I said, the ending of that one was really affecting. I love the black hair for the sound design. Sometimes I like following a shitty character, and that guy's kind of shitty. And that make that whole ending sequence in that is really great too. I put In a Cup of Tea third, because I'm kind of there where like I do wish that it was a little longer. I do wish that it was given as the same amount of time as the other ones. But I thought again that ending scare with the author like in the pot was terrifying to me. And then I really liked the main guy in that one. The guy who was seeing the guy in the cup, and like when he's like going crazy and he's like laughing and his mouth is like twisting to the side and he's like just like losing it, and then speaking of cool lighting things, there's a really cool one in that where he first sees the guy like in the flesh, and he knocks over like the teapot or whatever, and it's like dark, and then the camera like tilts up and the guy's like standing in like a corner, and then it like lights like on him directly. And then yeah, Hoichi, it is last, but again I like all of these shorts a lot. It's just not as strong as the other ones. There's still a lot to love in that one. I really like the ending. I really like a lot of it. It was just like thinking of it as a whole. It is a lot. But I do think that's the one where like on a rewatch, knowing ahead of time how much time each one, kind of just having that knowledge, would maybe like help like improve that my intake of it or whatever, and just be like, okay, knowing this one is going to be longer and it's going to take a little bit more to get to the, for it to like wrap up and all that. So I like that we all have this one as our number one too, because did you guys know that I'm trying to see like specifically for how long, but originally yeah, so I don't know how long this was the case, but for a certain amount of time in the US, it was shortened to like around like 2 hours because they took out the Woman of the Snow. So it was just the three stories.
I did see that there was like a discrepancy in like the American release, because I know this got released on Criterion, and like the full thing was restored with all 4 shorts. Did they say why they took the Woman in the Snow out?
I don't know why you would take that one out.
Yeah.
It's like the coolest one. Like the way that it looks and everything about it is like it made me think of like some of those scenes in like Mishima, like when he's
Yep. It was
that one sequence where he's like at one of the houses and it's like clearly like a sound stage.
I think you're thinking of the
sky.
Yeah, the Temple of the Golden Pavilion is that one.
That's what I'm thinking of, yes.
I got major Mishima vibes from this too, which was also why I had a feeling that I would like this, because it looked a lot like that, and I loved Mishima. Yeah, I don't know. Even the original, because this was an early Criterion list. I think I saw that it was like number 90 or something like that. And that original one didn't have the Woman of the Snow, but they like did like a reissue or whatever where they have the full length one. Wild, just wild.
That's just nuts.
Yep, I had a feeling I was gonna like this one a lot. That's why I picked it. I did like it a lot. Interestingly enough, too, this director, this might be his only like horror movie. The other movies of his that I know, like The Human Condition and Harakiri, are like dramas or like historical pieces. And I will say, for an anthology, because I kind of just expect, like I was racking my brain after watching this, like what is like the best anthology movie I've seen, because inevitably there's stinkers. Like that's the bummer, is I don't think I've ever seen an anthology movie where like everything is like, I'm super into everything. Like I really like the Animatrix, but there's a couple that are mid, and then there's that one that I really despise. VHS, has some great ones, has some clunkers.
Well, I think even the first thing I brought, Magnetic Rose.
That was literally what I was just gonna say. Memories that's probably another one of my favorite ones. So really, it's the Japanese know how to do anthologies better, because like when I'm thinking of my favorite ones, I would still put Animatrix there. I would put Memories, and I would put Kwaidan. Like this, and I'm saying, I guess that's to lead into, this might be my favorite anthology movie I've ever seen. And I'm really stuck. I'm sitting at a high 8 for this. If they were all hitting as high as those top two, or sorry, as the first two, I could see this being like a flat like 10 out of 10. And I feel like on a rewatch, it could go up to a 9 for me too. But right now I'm really close, but I'm high 8 for it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you. I was settling on an 8. I thought you were gonna go higher. I was expecting a 9 or a 10 out of you for this
It's
one.
tough. It's so tough. I don't know. I could go with a 9 too. I don't know.
Yeah, this as an anthology series, this was really, really cool. Yeah, I've been into a lot of like Japanese cinema in the last like couple months because like I watched Yojimbo Sanjuro and then this and then I mean next week, spoilers, we're gonna do another Japanese horror movie, so you're not out of the woods yet, dear listener. But yeah, everything about this was pretty great. I really need to like set the mood and watch it like properly because like I was kind of watching it. I found like a version of it on the Internet Archive on my computer, so I was watching it there, and the quality wasn't nearly as crisp as like the HBO Max or like the actual Criterion would be. So like I was kind of it was definitely one of those like I need to like be sitting in my living room in the dark with like my sound system and all that kind of shit. And I think I could easily bump this up again, especially like you said, now that you know about Hoichi, kind of the beats and how it works going into it. It kind of helps you like appreciate it more now that you're like, okay, this is the context of like everything that's about to happen. So all that being said, yeah, the first two hit like a train. They're so great. They're so visually interesting. Like the audio we talked about, the sound design, everything about it is like very like experimental because this is like 1965. So it's like they're doing shit that I feel like is way like I don't know if there were any American movies like doing it this way at this time. Like there were a lot of like conventions in cinema of like what it's supposed to look like and what it's supposed to sound like and how you use music. And I feel like in a lot of American cinema there's just like a score constantly with like a triumphant orchestra. like the music basically reflects the mood and kind of tells you how you're supposed to feel. And this, it's just like you're supposed to feel uncomfortable because the sound effects are uncomfortable, and the entire time you're just yeah, exactly. Yeah, all that to say though, 8. It was really cool, really great.
But no, I'm right there with you guys. I really like the experience of this. I didn't know it was an anthology until I'd actually started it. And yeah, it's unlike anything I'd ever seen. It falls in that weird category of like, you have to know someone's tastes to recommend it. Like, there's no way this is just going to be anyone's casual watch. You have to like have the intent to go through it. But I really enjoyed it. My only complaint is like in a cup of tea if the author had, for better or worse, picked their own ending to go along with it. Other than that, I loved what they were doing, especially for the time period like you guys were talking about. It's like they were on the cutting edge at that time period, doing stuff that bucks trends because it wasn't established yet, and just kind of throwing stuff out there. And as a result, like here we are talking about it 60 years later.
Yeah, very nearly. Yeah.
They should have done what they did with Clue, where it's like, this is how it could have ended. And it's like, you know.
I do feel like there's got to be some. Maybe if I had watched it a few days earlier and been able to think on it more or something, I do feel like there's got to be some clear intent with like, I don't think it was the actual writer of this was like, I don't know, like there's got to be some reason for why he doesn't finish his story and then he's also in some water or whatever. I just. My brain can't do it.
It felt more like an encore, where it's like, all right,
bit, yeah.
like the curtain, like we played our final song,
right?
Okay, we'll come back and give you a little something. That is kind of
yeah. It's like
it was like
you
25 minutes.
You have the two opening acts, and then you have the the main whatever you say that the main act. And then you have the encore. That's kind of like the overall structure of the movie. Yeah, cool. Yeah, you saying like you got to know somebody's taste. That's funny because like I had no idea. I was not sure if you guys were gonna be into this.
Well, had you seen it before either?
No.
So it was also shot in the dark for you.
Yes, but I know my own tendencies, I guess. Like I said, I know that, like, I've seen some other movies that this kind of evokes, like visually at least. I'm really into like old folklore stuff. I guess that's I think you guys kind of are into that stuff too, but I guess it being like some weeb shit too, I'm just like
completely off topic, and you can cut this if you want, but did you ever listen to I think it's still going, the podcast just called Lore?
I did.
No, I
back
watched
in
some of the
day.
show.
Oh, I didn't know they made a show of it. But yeah, kind of like a
on
similar
Amazon.
vibe where they kind of go through and do stuff.
Yeah.
And
Wasn't
each
like
one is its
the
own
first
one-off.
episode they did the Chicago like the world the guy H.H. Holmes, the guy who had like the World's Fair.
Yeah, I think he did an episode on him.
Yeah, I think
Probably.
I remember listening. I remember like driving home. I think I was coming home from like Hastings or something. Like we were all hanging out, doxing the show again. I was like driving home, and like I think I put that on late at night.
Wait, were you driving home to your address and insert address?
Yeah. Well, I don't live there anymore, so I can dox whoever lives in Kalamazoo now. There's 4 different addresses I could dox. But yeah, I remember like driving home late at night listening to the H.H. Holmes episode of Lore, and that was like because like that show had like sound design and like effects and like kind of a spooky atmosphere. It was a good late night listen, but it definitely was like unnerving.
I think the last Lore episode that I watched was an 8-hour dive into the Five Nights at Freddy's lore.
Oh man.
But yeah, going back into tastes and kind of taking a swing at it, I feel the same way last week when I was bringing Lake Mungo and Late Night with the Devil. I had seen both of those before, but like I hope these guys like them, because last time I brought 2 movies that I knew probably wouldn't get good reactions, but they were so different from everything else out there. I was showcasing for that. Whereas this time was like an honest and just like an honest to God. Ooh, I hope they like it.
Yeah. I could probably bump up my Skinamarink score on another watch. Something
give it a
deep
solid
inside
2?
of me. Something deep inside of me wants to defend that movie, even though like I don't know if my heart's actually in it, but somewhere deep down I'm like, no, it's good. It's actually good on like an aesthetic level, on analog horror level, but I just can't bring myself to like full-throatedly defend it.
Well, here's the thing. You just have to have the right viewing experience, and that's to get high and watch it at 2 a.m. with no lights on whatsoever, because that's how I watched both of those.
And and like paint over all the doors and windows in your house so that there's no way out.
The bathroom is there for like 2 seconds, so you have to be quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's how I hear about movie. I don't know. I know about a lot of like old movies, but know very little about them. So I think that's why it was kind of like I was like unsure as far as like recommending it to other people. I think that's what I'm saying, because like I'm familiar. I know the director's like pretty well known. I know this movie is pretty well known, but I knew like next to nothing about it other than that it was like ghost stories or whatever. So it's always whenever I bring in like movies that I haven't seen, it's usually like I don't know a lot about them, and that's why it's kind of a roll of the dice for me or whatever. But always good when it does work out and people like it, so that's cool. Glad that we all enjoyed it. Especially since it was so long. That would have made it even worse if like, you guys hated it and it was 3 hours.
Yeah. I think it being an anthology definitely like helps break it up a little bit. Like you get
if you need to,
you get sort of some of that fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think I'd have given it a 9 if there were some jump scares, like maybe a clown pops out of a closet somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was gonna transition to post chat earlier when you said some weeb shit, so I'm gonna say it now. Speaking of some weeb shit, did you watch Uzumaki? Would that be considered weeb shit?
Yeah. I did watch it. I watched the first episode.
Yeah, I watched it earlier, and Chris did not. So I guess we can go.
Yeah, I thought I
Like-
had Max, and I did not.
Oh, you don't?
No, I
You
mean,
might-
I can probably get a password somewhere, but
I was gonna say you might be able to watch it on AdultSwim.com. I don't know if you have to I don't think you need like a membership or anything like that to watch their new stuff.
I don't know. I didn't even try until like 7:30 today. So
Oh, okay. Well, check it out. Yeah, it's short. It's only gonna be 4 episodes, and they're only like 20-25 minutes, so it's pretty.
yeah.
Should be a pretty quick watch. But I like it so far.
Yes. It definitely it feels like I don't have it. So the one that I have is it Geo?
Gyo. You have that one?
I do have that one.
Oh, okay. I almost bought
That's
that
the
one.
that yeah, I bought it because it has the few short stories at the end, and it has the enigma of Megara Fault.
Yeah.
Which is a big decision why I bought it.
So
But
so that you have like the hard copy that's like kind of looks like this, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think the only one I have is I have to look up how to pronounce it. Remina.
Oh, I think it's Remina.
Remina?
Unless it is a Japanese word, but it's either Remina or Remina. Yeah.
But like with the planet appearing.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
that picture. It looks really creepy, but I don't know much about that one.
I mean, I have it if you want to snag it at some point.
I do. I want to read Gyo and I want to read Remina. So he did a manga version of Frankenstein that I think won some like Eisner Awards maybe. So I kind of want to check that out too because I do love that book.
Did not know that. I do like that in real life. He just seems kind of like this happy guy who's like very positive about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, let me draw something fucked up that's going to give you nightmares.
That's usually how it is. That's what I love, because like I've been a fan of like David Firth for a long time, and the Salad Fingers guy, and all of his other cartoons, a black and white cartoon about roof tiles or something like that, or like a lot of his stuff is very dark and weird and messed up. But then it's like you listen to David Firth talk about anything or like interviews with him or whatever, and he's very funny. He's like very normal. Just like a guy. I don't know. And his music's really good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because hopping back to Junji Ito real quick, he did a series for definitely not BuzzFeed, but kind of something in the same vein where he like reviewed other people's creations, like, oh, here's my monster,
Oh, really?
this, that, and the other, and he was like giving his overview on that. And going back to Trevor Henderson, the guy who created Siren Head, I think Siren Head was one of the monsters he reviewed, and he was talking about that.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
But it's just one of those things, like even monsters where he's like, I don't like it, but I like how the creator did this and this, and I see what they're going for.
That's cool.
It just seems like a really nice dude.
Yeah. It's not like what that makes me think of, because I'm sure you guys have seen the memes like comparing him to like Hayao Miyazaki or whatever.
Yeah.
So the Miyazaki version of that is, have you guys seen the video of where he's like taken to some like computer animation studio and they show him like this
Where
like
he just shits on
test-
their AI.
Yeah.
He's like,
I think
this
we
is
talked
an
about this.
abomination.
Yes.
They should never
Yeah,
see the
I'm
light
pretty
of
Oh.
It's fucking,
Yeah.
it's so brutal.
極めて不愉快ですよね。そんなに気持ち悪いものをやりたいなら勝手にやってればいいだけで、僕はこれを自分たちの仕事をつなげたいとは全然思いません。極めて何か生命に対する侮辱を感じます。
And like then it like the camera like turns over to the guys and they're just like just they're completely broken.
Oh,
They
I
woke
love
up
it.
that morning like, I'm gonna meet my hero today. I'm gonna show my hero like all the stuff that I've been working on. He's like my biggest inspiration. And then you get there and he tells you just like, your shit sucks, kill yourself. And you're like, oh man.
Dang it.
It's like I think God, what was it? I think it was an H Bomber Guy video where it was Stan Lee shitting on what's his name? The guy who can't draw feet. He can't and like
Rob Liefeld.
yes.
Yeah.
There was like some like instructional like how to draw or whatever video that was like released on DVD, and it's like Stan Lee kind of like talking. It's like he's like talking about the different characters, and just throughout the entire thing, every Rob Liefeld drawing, he just like kind of throws in these little jabs about just like, oh, didn't draw the feet on this one, huh, Rob? Or like just like Stan just very subtly shitting on him like to his face.
He's I guess he's a good mix of Miyazaki and Ito, where like I think he's generally like nice dude, and he's very supportive of like, you know, people pursuing artistic endeavors and all that, but he's also not afraid to like, you know, throw some jabs at people here and there too.
They dole it out to people who know better, where it's like Miyazaki, it's like you guys should know better than to like do this. You know, it's not like, you know, looking at like a little kid's artwork and being like, this is shit, why would you even draw this like that? Well, you know, like old Maddox articles like shitting on children's art.
Yeah. and then his son made Earwig and the Witch. Have you guys seen that?
Everyone no, but I know no one liked it. It was like pretty universally panned.
Yeah. Have you seen like what it looks like though? Because I haven't seen it either, but like, yeah, it looks bad. It looks really ugly and bad.
Yeah, isn't it like it's like that Studio Ghibli style, but it's like
CG.
Yeah. Yeah, Uncanny Valley.
Yeah. It's not good. I mean, it's a bummer because like the story sounds kind of like a classic Ghibli story, but this looks so hideous.
Oh man. Usually I'm kind of over the one sentence letterboxd review that's like a quip or a joke. But there's a guy, Karsten, I don't know if you follow him, he's like a YouTuber as well.
Yeah.
His 1-star review of Earwig and the Witch. I've seen commercials for the general insurance that look better than this.
Yeah, that's good. Go to the... Oh man, damn, that just triggered a jingle I haven't thought about in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get more Ito talk later. Yeah, if you guys want to trade, you should read this. It's really cool. And then as soon as I finish this, I bought this one too, Tomie, which is like his other like big one, and I think his first like published story too. So I flipped the opening. It's like, oh, it's like it's not. It's just interesting because it's you can see that how it's his, but it doesn't look quite like any of his other stuff because it's before he kind of like refined his style.
Oh, interesting.
So it looks a little different. Yeah. And
cats love podcasts. It's true. They love him, or that he looks like he doesn't. He's like, I don't know what to do here.
But he can't get away.
So as far as like other spooky stuff I watched, very briefly, I watched Sleepy Hollow. Have you guys seen that? The Tim Burton, Johnny
I don't think
Depp,
I've seen
Christina
it since
Ricci.
I was done with school.
That's what I want to say. I don't know if I like remember much about it, or if I've seen the whole like front to back.
I remember
I've
when
seen some of it.
I remember when it came out. I think it came out in like 98 or 99 or something like that. Like as a kid, I remember seeing like the cover of it and being like kind of spooked by it. Because it's like it's like Johnny Depp and Christina Ricci, and it's like, I don't know, it just has like a very creepy look to it. But we were just, you know, we had a Saturday night because we postponed this, so we watched the spooky movie, and I was like, let's watch Sleepy Hollow. That's one, you know, I've never seen. I've always, you know, heard about it. And then it's like, oh, it's a Tim Burton, Johnny Depp collab from like the 90s. So it's like, I think it's like right after Ed Wood.
Yeah, it'd be right around there, yeah.
It's R-rated, which I feel like is uncommon for Tim Burton movies. I feel like usually he's... I guess Ed Wood was also like R-rated.
Yeah, he has a couple R-rated movies, but yeah.
I didn't realize it was R-rated.
Yeah.
Because I definitely was like seeing it as a kid, probably almost every year around Halloween.
Yeah, there's some pretty there's not really any like bad language, but like some of the head choppings are pretty brutal. Like you kind of see
and all the gangbangs
and the gangbang. It's rated R because Jeffrey Jones is in it.
Well, wouldn't he want it to be rated G for general audiences?
Yeah. It was a cool movie though. I thought it was all right. It kind of had like some weird action set pieces where it felt like I guess it was pre Pirates of the Caribbean, but there's like a few scenes where like the headless horseman like kind of gets off his horse and he has a sword, and Casper Van Dien is in this movie.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like,
yeah,
Christina Ricci's like her character's initial love interest. Spoilers: he doesn't last long in the movie. But there's kind of like a double sword fight scene with both him and Johnny Depp and the Headless Horseman. And I was like, oh, it's kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean, where there's just like a lot of sword clanks and they're like spinning around each other. The choreography was kind of neat. It was weirdly like kind of an action movie in this moody New England town, like the story of the Headless Horseman, and it's like a very like foggy like Resident Evil 4 village style place that it's in, which of course I'm watching it and I look over at Chloe and I'm like, despite all ignoring the Headless Horseman bit, looks kind of cozy. I'm always watching horror movies and seeing like these locations and I'm like, I don't know, it's kind of scenic, it'd be kind of nice.
Yeah, just don't piss off the spirits.
Yeah.
Cover your ears.
Yeah, Christopher Walken is the Headless Horseman.
Yep, I remember that.
He has like no lines of dialogue whatsoever. He might have a couple, but his character, like he shaved his teeth down so all of his teeth are like spiky, and just the entire time he's just like, ah! Like that's all his character does. It's great. So yeah, that's my rec. Sleepy Hollow. It's tight 90-ish. And it's pretty. Yeah. I'm kind of surprised Helena Bonham Carter wasn't in it. That's like, it's so like Johnny Depp, Helena Bonham Carter coded, but Christina Ricci's good.
Depending on when it came out, she might have actually been filming like Fight Club or something.
Probably.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I've just been finishing up which I have now finished up the Alien and Predator movies. That was my little early October project. And I'm doing another like video that I'll do for the channel where I like, where I do like a ranking or whatever.
Did you include the AVP ones?
I did, yeah. And I have some hot takes about some of the movies.
I saw your Letterboxd reviews, and I saw that some of them were like 3 to 3.5. So I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
I will die on the hill that it is an incredible premise.
Oh yeah, yeah. I like other stuff about them too. But I guess I'll shout out in particular. So I watched them, like I watched through the franchises, and then I did the AVP movies, and then I had wanted to watch the assembly cut of Alien 3, which is not a director's cut, but it is like an extended version of it. And it was just because I'd heard that it's like it like makes it way better. And so I watched the theatrical of Alien 3 when I was making my way through it like in order, and then I rewatched it with the assembly at the end, and I really liked it. I would agree that it like if you have watched it before, I mean even if you haven't, I would just say like if you can find it, the assembly cut is definitely the way to go with Alien 3. It's not a director's cut because David Fincher wanted nothing to do with that movie when he was done filming it. So, but it fleshes out characters more. You just get like contextual scenes with characters or things going on, and it's just nice to see it. And I really like the characters in that movie too.
Is the assembly cut available like Is that like an official release, or is that like a fan made like
No,
thing?
so well, it's funny because you could call it a fan made thing, but no, it is an official release. So what they did is, when the Alien quadrilogy set was released on DVD, which is like all I remembered, like pre like Prometheus, like that was like the way to watch the movies. When they made that box set, they basically came to all the directors who did 1 through 4, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to do a director's cut?" And James Cameron, Ridley Scott, and Jean-Pierre Jeunet said yes. So there's director's cuts of 1, 2, and 4, and David Fincher said, "Fuck you." So basically, the guy who was like in charge of like the development of the quadril of that box set, he did the edit himself, I guess.
Interesting. Okay.
So not tied to he didn't like work on the movie, I don't believe, but he was in charge of that, and they were like, "Hey, we want, special version for the box set and everything." So they had him do it. And yeah, it just feels like way more refined, way more like better paced and everything. And still not like a perfect movie, but I would definitely say if you were ever to like go through and like watch those, try to watch that one if you can.
Interesting. Because a few years ago I bought like, I think it's the Alien like collection that also includes Prometheus and Covenant.
Okay.
So I'll have to check if that version of Alien 3 has the assembly cut.
Might. Yeah, I don't know about like future like versions past the quadrilogy. I know you can pay like the versions on wherever those are streaming, HBO or Amazon.
I think
or
they're
something.
all on Hulu.
I know they have the. Oh yeah, they have the Predator movies. Do they have? They might have both. But that would be the theatrical cut. If you want the assembly, I think you'd have to like rent it off of Amazon or whatever. And you'll just know because it's like the theatrical cut is like 2 hours, and then the assembly cut is like 2:20 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit longer. But it's like 20 extra minutes well spent. It's all like worth it, and it makes it better. Again, still like far from a perfect movie, but just it made me watching the theatrical cut. I was like, okay, this is really forgettable. And then watching the assembly cut, I was like, I still don't love this, but it makes me really bummed out for like the missed potential. So it's like you can see a lot more of the promise of like what it could have been. And also, yeah, the characters are really great. I don't know if I said him already, but Charles Dance is like one of my favorite characters in that franchise. He's awesome in that movie. And you actually get an explanation for why Sigourney Weaver has to shave her head in the assembly cut. In the theatrical cut, she kind of just does it.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, was that an instance of like they just threw David Fincher at it, and then the studio meddled and like kind of he just hated working on it, where it was just like he didn't feel like he had any control over it?
That's my thinking, is that so I did do I watched like a little thing on YouTube about like the making of, just because I know it was like a tumultuous process. Basically they wanted to make a third one because, the other ones did well, and that's what you do. But the producers were also really worried about like, so they wanted to make a sequel, but they wanted it to be good. They unlike a lot of producers who just want to make sequels and don't give a shit, apparently they were really concerned about like making a good sequel that stood up alongside the first two movies, which are loved, pretty iconic in their genres. So it was like a lot of pressure. So with all that pressure, trying to imitate that, they like went through a few different screenwriters. David Fincher was like their third director, I guess. They had also reached out to both James Cameron and Ridley Scott to come back. I think James Cameron was working on Terminator 2. Good call. And Ridley Scott wanted to do a prequel movie. And the studio was just like, yeah, that's not what we're doing here. So it didn't work out with either of them. And then yeah, David Fincher's like a guy at this point who did some music videos and some commercials. So hey, he knows how to direct things, and we can tell him to do what we want because he's not David Fincher yet. So but if you know David Fincher as a director, he's very meticulous and controlling. So I could see that, just like I can see why he hates like the movie so much, because he probably didn't get to, do 70 takes of somebody, throwing a book in a car seat. And probably when he's just starting out, I think he's still in his 20s when he did this, the studio was probably like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope. We'll give you like a couple. We got to get this thing out.
This is a machine. You're operating a machine, and like we're moving on.
Yeah. It's a bummer because like it sounds like the guys, the producers did, like I said, they did want to make it good. They weren't trying to just do like a studio product, but that's just kind of how it ended up being.
Yeah. Because like Fincher immediately after this does Seven and Fight Club. So it's just like
yeah.
The biggest course correct of all time.
So I mean, if anything, this probably got his foot in the door to make that stuff. So had a good legacy in that sense.
Yeah.
They just wanted to make Alien great again.
MAGA.
I've been workshopping it. It's like I got something.
Tight. All right. Want to move out to the rec for next week?
Yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
All right. Well, I guess this is my recommendation. So this is a movie that I basically heard about through a YouTube video essay about like constructing like a terrifying scene. So I have seen one of the most famous like scary scenes in this movie. So I guess I spoiled myself a little bit, but we are staying in foreign film land. This is another Japanese horror movie. It is called Cure from 1997, directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. No relation?
No relation.
No relation.
I checked.
Yeah. This movie also has kind of had a bit of a resurgence because of Longlegs coming out this year. Because the premise of this movie is the story follows a detective investigating a string of gruesome murders where an X is carved into the neck of each victim, and the murderer is found near the victim of each case and remembers the crime but does not know why they did it. Which the premise of Longlegs is basically they're investigating a serial killer, but like there's no trace of the killer in the room where the murder takes place. So they're like, how is he pulling this off without being there, etc. So it's like there's sort of like these slow burn procedurals. I think that's kind of like the comparison that's made. But I've seen people like talk about Cure and Silence of the Lambs in reference to like Longlegs coming out.
Oh,
Okay.
Of like
Gotcha.
other things that are like in that same vein.
Sweet. Yep. That's another one been on my watch list for a long time, so I'm excited to check that one out. I think I'm gonna watch. I put it on my Hooptober list, kind of because I knew you were recommending this. His movie he did after this, Pulse, which is the other one of his that I've heard of. So I'm gonna be checking that one out soon too.
Some of the images for this are unsettling.
For which one? For Pulse
For
or Cure?
Pulse.
Yeah. Not even. Am I looking? I'm not gonna look. I just.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway, so yeah, if you don't want to be spoiled for Cure, watch it before the next episode. These episodes come out every Wednesday at 7 p.m. EST on YouTube in video form, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more in audio form. We also have social pages on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And with all that said,
That one.
Be done. Oh, and I'm TJ.
You're writing a fine line.
Oh, am I? I guess that
I
could
don't
be. I guess that could be questionable. Yeah, that's me. That's it. I could do the whole thing, you know. I could take another like 15 minutes and yeah.
That'd be quite a large chunk of time.
Ooh, nice. As always, I am your I'm your friend. We're gonna go take a walk in the snowy wilderness, and I hope some lady doesn't blow on me to death. And
blow me to death.
Blow me to death. And I'm Nick, and with us as always.
As sometimes I'm Chris, and I'll be one next week.
Oh.
Oh wow, Jesus.